Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Talk, Listen, and Discuss. Today I have another video that I wanted to present to you on the Amy Bradley case. Why? Because I came across this Unsolved Mysteries link on Reddit and I watched it. And let me tell you, it is so different from the Netflix series. How? Very different on how they present Amy Bradley as a character, as well as Yellow as a character. And I don't believe it's based on the time limitations of Unsolved Mysteries versus Netflix. I believe it's because of the differences in times. And what do I mean by that? So, why do I believe that there's such a big difference? I don't think it's because of the time limitation, a 30-minute show versus a 3 segment docuseries, or maybe Unsolved Mysteries was an hour. Either way, I believe the difference was not based on actual clock time, but based on the years, the decades even, because this episode aired in 1998. It aired either late April or early May of 1998. And that is why I think that the depictions of Amy and Yellow, and actually the story itself, felt a little different. Not that the information was different, just that the way everything was presented was different because of the sign of the times, where we were then as to where we are now. And before I start telling you what I think, let's go ahead and watch the beginning of Unsolved Mysteries. And then I'm going to pause and deliver some commentary. And then we're going to continue the rest of the video in the same manner. I'd like to finish this off with presenting also an article that was linked in Reddit, not necessarily with this link, but it was very close to it. And it is the Sun article. It is an article I haven't read yet, and I found it very fascinating and very telling. So I wanted to end that with you and go ahead and share some of my commentary over that article as well as it relates to the Amy Bradley case. Are you ready? Me too. Let's go. In this episode, they already introduced her as an all-American girl. Very friendly, made friends wherever she went, that kind of thing. And while I do believe that Amy Bradley was very friendly, very athletic, and had some magnetism, the character that they present in this show looks more like an Amy Lou Retton, the gymnast when she was young and had that similar short hair and just had that very Wheaties box smile because she was on the Wheaties box and just had that very sweet disposition. That's who the girl who was depicted as Amy Bradley in Unsolved Mysteries came across as. The Amy Bradley of Netflix, not so much. She comes across as the sporty, very rebellious, very edgy, very nice, very friendly, but very complicated and complex character. Not the one-dimensional, very girl next door character that Unsolved Mysteries is portraying. And that really has nothing to do with the time limits. They could have very well presented Amy Bradley in the light that she's seen in now, especially with the family input. But they chose to depict her as somebody totally different in so many respects. In fact, the only thing they share here that's very similar to the Amy Bradley of Netflix is that, yes, indeed, she played basketball and was on a basketball scholarship to college. What gets me is that the family did have an opportunity to give input to the interviewers. As you can see, the family is talking to the Unsolved Mysteries. I would imagine they're producers or people who worked on this show. And yet we see a very different Amy portrayed in the show itself. Now, I know sometimes the family doesn't have any say in that. It could have been out of their control. But I find it interesting that Unsolved Mysteries show to depict a very pixie American-looking girl next door instead of the very athletic, gay woman that we see depicted in the Netflix show. The sign of the times is this, that back then, there still was a stigma to being in the gay and lesbian community. She was definitely a lesbian. I know that the family has mentioned she was bisexual. I know they say she had a boyfriend at the time she disappeared, but because her friends, especially her ex-girlfriends, have a view or have insight to her that the family may not have for obvious reasons, I do believe she identified as being a lesbian. And I think that dating boys was just something to do to help appease her family, mainly her father, as well as keep some peace and to keep some connection with them. Because by all accounts, Amy was very scared to tell her parents she was gay. She was worried how they would handle it. And during these times, it just simply was not something that was easily accepted or processed. Another thing I wanted to mention here is that we see here that when Amy and Brad return, they do mention here the part about Amy's dad asking her to turn the light off when they came in and started talking. And the story I think is that the dad heard them talking and was upset that they had left the bathroom light on or some light on. I want to say it was a bathroom light on. And so he told them, one of them, to turn off the light. And Amy walked in, turned off the light, and then went back out and they started talking. I'm going to try to find that story again because that story was in an earlier account after the disappearance. It was closer to the disappearance than not closer to the disappearance, maybe not even a year out. I think it was months too. I'm going to find out. I'm going to put the link in there so that you can read where her dad is sharing that information, where he was awakened by them when they returned to the room at some point, and he asked Amy to turn off the light, and she did. So I thought that that was interesting. So now we have it in this video, so it aligns with that story. We really haven't seen that account anywhere else. And in some of the videos that y'all have been kind enough to share with me, and in some of the ones I've come across myself, and the articles as well, I have not seen that mentioned again. If you have, please send me the link. I would be happy to see it. It doesn't prove or disprove anything. I just like it when things have some corroborating stories or even some gaps. It just whatever you can have in front of you to kind of still keep processing the story. I've heard this and I've seen it where people comment on how it seemed like her dad was very concerned right away, or like it was almost too fast how he was so concerned about her being how something bad happened to her instead of her being a 23-year-old girl on this huge massive ship roaming around. Now I get the if you were scared if it was like a 5-year-old, maybe even 10-year-old kid going around the ship and you didn't know where their whereabouts were. But a 23-year-old girl, I do get both parts, right? I do get that while some people are like kind of suspicious on that. And then I get why some people aren't necessarily suspicious on that because, you know your own kids, you know how your family members are, that kind of thing. But I'm going to go ahead and tell you, yeah, I think it is. I'm not saying that the parents had anything to do with it, but if the dad was alarmed so quickly, was it because there had been some kind of disagreement, some kind of argument on over Amy's sexuality or over Amy anything that Amy was about to do after they got off the boat, went back home and started living life again? Was there anything that they could have been discussing that he felt, oh, well, you know what? Maybe she was so upset. She's somewhere on the boat, still upset, and I'm going to go find her. That kind of alarming emotion, not that he did something and now is trying to cover up. That is not where I'm going with this. I do think it is a little bit bizarre that he would almost, it seemed, immediately jump to that. What I don't think is bizarre, and I'm going to fast forward a little bit, not from the video, but my thinking, is when they finally do have the announcement go across the ship asking Amy to contact them when they do the announcement on the ship finally. Now, when they don't hear anything from that, I don't think it's alarming that they were alarmed then, or I don't think it was suspicious that they were alarmed then. I just think that for her being 23 years old and being more on her own than not, out of sight, out of mind with a lot of her college activities and a lot of going out with her friends and doing this and that, how they would automatically within an hour's time be worried about her being on a ship because they didn't know where she was. I hope that makes sense, but let's continue. So Amy's dad woke up 3 times. Once, as I mentioned, about the light being on. Second was he woke up for some random opportunity moment. It happens, especially when we're traveling, especially when we're on a cruise ship. And he noticed that his daughter was outside. What we see here that I haven't really seen anywhere else, but I do think it may have been on the Netflix documentary for a brief second, as it was here, where they do show him looking at the clock. But nowhere, and if you have, please let me know, nowhere have I seen, heard, read that he really did look at the clock to see if it was that time, when he noticed her there and then when he didn't notice her there. And that is something that has never been definitively, at least in things that I've seen, and I've seen a lot and read a lot, where he's confirmed yes. And I looked at the clock, and normally I think that that's what we would do as people, most of us. Well, I looked at the clock and I noticed that it was 5:30 and she wasn't out there, that kind of thing, or she was there, that kind of thing. That's kind of what I was hoping to hear, and I didn't hear it in this case, but we do see it. And I don't know if that was just both television producers just trying to give the viewer a sense of the timestamp. Okay, let's continue. Okay, and then he says that he felt something funny. He had a funny feeling because she was normally not awake that early. And I kind of get that. If you have a child that's not norm, it's not normal for them to wake up that early. I get that you would think it was, peculiar for them to be up and about already. But I also remember when the mom said, well, she would have left a note if she was going to be gone more than 15 minutes. So there's just so many things that we're used to people doing that, yeah, are telltale on when they're out of their routine. She's 23. For her to be up at an early that morning, and yeah, it's not typical, but they're on vacation, so maybe it was something different. Or if it was normal for her to leave a note, even if she was going to be gone, just if it was normal for her to leave a note, if she was just going to be gone for 15 minutes, but she didn't leave a note, that's what her mom said. And I don't know if it's going to come up here or somewhere else, where her mom said that if Amy knew that she was going to be gone or suspected she would be gone longer than 15 minutes, she would have left a note, and she didn't. And but again, they're on vacation, and sometimes our norms are, they're on vacation too. So I don't know. I just wanted to point that out to you, how he said that, he was alarmed because, well, I mean, she normally doesn't wake up that early and she was not there. So I don't know. I'm just bringing it up again. I really don't know what I'm trying to say there. And that's another thing. Like, she wouldn't look over the railing. Here, they do say she's scared of the ocean, but they kind of give more of the impression that she was scared of heights. Now, in an earlier article, and I shared on one of my videos in the past, where the article definitively says, and they're talking to the family, that Amy was scared of heights. And they also mentioned that she was scared of ocean water because she didn't want to swim in ocean water because she couldn't see what was in there swimming around her or something like that. That's why she was scared of swimming in the ocean. They never mentioned if she was squeamish about swimming in lakes or ponds, which I would think it would be similar. They specifically always mentioned the ocean. But since she was a lifeguard, we know that she at least would be comfortable in swimming pools, which I get they're a more controlled environment. But the ocean and a swimming pool, two totally different things. Got it. However, this clip alone shows to me she's more afraid of heights than it seems like she's scared of the water. And I don't know. I just think that I would have shown to get that point across how scared she was of getting close to ocean water, like on the shore, trying to get close to ocean water, more than I would have put her at a high height or elevated height, and showing that she was scared of the water. Because to me, my mind is saying, oh, that girl is scared of heights. It's not jumping to, oh, she's scared of ocean. Let's see. Let's keep going. Interesting, right? Yellow. He was played by a very American looking guy. White guy, dark features, tall, dark, and I guess if you consider that guy handsome. Nothing. He looks nothing at all like Yellow. And why do you think that is? Was it that the family didn't want Yellow depicted as a black man? Was it that the producers were scared to depict Yellow as a black man? There was an interesting comment a while ago, and I've never seen it answered by any of the family members anywhere. So please, if you've seen them answer this, send me the link. But where it was pointed out that it could have been quite possible that the dad could have been upset seeing Amy dancing or being around a black guy. And at first, I thought, what does that got to do with anything? But now that I see this unsolved mysteries thing, I'm like, why did they depict Yellow as an American looking guy? As a very shisty American looking guy, tall, dark, and handsome, sneaky guy. I think it could have been for multiple reasons. Well, two major reasons. One, maybe the family didn't want him, to be portrayed as a black guy. Maybe they did have some sensitive issues about that. Or it could have been that the producers did, because during this time, if you think that coming out was not accepted, you would be right, by the way. But secondly, interracial couples, definitely still not there either. During this time, I can tell you that it definitely was still very taboo for a white person and a black person to be dating, especially if it was a black guy and a white girl. Again, I'm just keeping it real. You can give me your opinion. This is just a discussion. Feel free to let me know what you think, but please try to be respectful. But if anything, don't be threatening to me or to anybody else on the platform. There's just simply not enough evidence that you think that there would be had she left that room. Cruise ships at 6 o'clock in the morning with that many people, I think over 3,000 people, there would have been a significant enough early bird risers to see Amy Bradley. Remember, the family, they themselves say that she caught a lot of attention. So if she caught up a lot of attention, then at 6 a.m. in the morning, she should have been recognized. She just should have been, whether she had a camera or not, whether she had shoes or not, whether she was just wearing a white shirt or not. Whatever she was doing at that time in the morning, especially if she was with a black guy, she should have been seen by more than a couple of girls definitively on that ship in that area. And for those of you who have been on cruise ships, there are a lot of early birds, a lot of them around that area, because it was on the top of the ship. A lot of people like to take their coffee out there and go sit, especially when you're about to pull in port. So I don't understand why not more people were able to confirm that it was Amy. And again, those two girls that said that they saw Amy, I think Brad himself says that those girls can't confirm the time that they actually saw Amy. So again, there's a lot of things here that cannot be confirmed, and especially that she ever left the room. And just based on a lot of other things that was said and shared, you'd think that she would have been. But I just think that this is one of those unfortunate tragedies, and it aligns very well with somebody who was going through a lot, and the family is struggling with a lot. There are narratives that their minds would rather go to, and that is why we're still here today trying to find a missing girl, not necessarily me, but other people out there trying to find a missing girl, or find the story of the girl that went missing, who really just simply on that tragic morning, some way found herself in the ocean, and her life was ended prematurely. Okay, so tell me what you think. I look forward to hearing from you. I look forward to your comments. And again, these are all my opinions. I know you have yours, but whatever your opinions are, please take care of yourself, take care of others, and God bless you. Until next time, bye.